Welcome to the Breakthrough to Your Best Success online event. Join your host, Elizabeth Hamilton-Guarino, and the contributors from the Success Guidebook and other special guests to visualize, actualize, and amplify you and your best success. This conference will help you redefine success, transform your goals, embrace change, design and realize your best life, and much more.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Best Ever You conference here, the Breakthrough to Your Best Success conference. And grab your coffee, grab your book, grab whatever, sit back, relax, because we have the one and only Dr. Ivan Misner with us. He's one of my buddies and friends for so long. He helps me with Best Ever You all the time and gives me guidance and mentorship and steers me in the right direction often. And I'm always so grateful for you, Dr. Misner. I was just
call me Ivan.
I always call you Ivan.
Yeah.
But for those who don't know you, but thank you so much. Oh my God, here's the book, and you are chapter 6, and yes. It's like a total tribute to you here. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you, and that's very kind of you. I've got a little bit of value-added information for those people who read the book. It mentions that we've got I'm the founder of BNI. We've got over 300,000 members, 11,000 chapters. It mentions in the book that we did 21.7 billion in closed business. That is business for our members. But here's something that I don't think is in there. Oh yeah, it is. I'm sorry. It's higher than 100 countries' GDP. I forgot that was in this book.
Yeah, I remember you saying
this is the
that.
first book I've said that in, by the way.
Is it? Yeah, no, I remember you saying that, and I was like, that is so amazing. And you started, people don't really understand. They see you now, and they see everything about you now. It's not like this, an instant. Take us back. I may veer off questions with you because we know each other, but take us back to that starting moment, because this started like years and years and years ago, and it wasn't like, here's my fancy office building.
Right. Well, it started in my house.
I know.
It's BNI will celebrate its 40th anniversary next January.
Happy birthday!
I'd like to say I had this vision of an international organization, but the truth is I needed some referrals for my consulting practice. I built most of my business through referrals and speaking engagements. And so I put together some people I trusted. I believed that they trusted me, and I hoped that we would refer each other. And what I discovered with that was that we don't teach this in colleges and universities, and people were just dying for referrals. They really, really wanted referrals, but they didn't know how to get them. And so people kept coming to me and saying, hey, this is great, but I can't join because in BNI you can only take one person per professional classification. So they asked me to open a second chapter and a third chapter and a fourth chapter. At first I'm like, this isn't what I do. I'm a business consultant. But they kept talking me into it, and I did it. And at the end of a year, I had 20 groups, still running it out of my house, still running my consulting business full time. And that's when it hit me that this was going to be way bigger than I anticipated. I call it my Brody moment. In the movie Jaws, where Sheriff Brody, he sees the shark for the first time, and he turns to the captain and he says, "You're going to need a bigger boat."
Yeah.
That was my Brody moment. I realized I was going to need a bigger boat.
The book examines success in a new and redefined way. How has your perspective and pursuit of success evolved through your life?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for inviting me to participate in the book. I really appreciate it, and it was my honor to do so. I think it's really important to understand that we all define success differently. My father was a blue-collar worker. My mother was a stay-at-home mom. I thought they were both successful because my mom was a great mom. My dad was a hard-working man. And they never made a lot of money, but they were incredibly successful parents, in my opinion. They were great parents. So that's success. Success might be about, it might be being a social worker. It might be an elementary school teacher. Most people define success by money, and which is certainly one way to define it. And in terms of BNI, I'm a 20-year overnight success. It took me 20 years to build a business that was really substantial. I mean, I lived in the track home that I started BNI in for 20 years before I finally bought my dream home. So to define it, I believe success is like a layer cake. You put it's layer on layer. It's consistent work over a long period of time with a focus as to where you want to go and how you want to get there. And that's for me what success is about.
Yeah. Are you material? I did just have a question for you. Like you don't seem like you don't seem like you're too into material success. You seem like you're about everybody else. I don't ever see you go, look at my cars, look at my house. And I do see you go, look at my wine cellar, but that's not, that's not what I see there is come on over and enjoy this with me. I don't see, look at all my stuff, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I try to look at, there's a little bit of a balance because if you're going to, I am active on social media. And if you're going to see me on social media, you're going to see some of my stuff. You're going to see me out on my boat and you may see me walking on the trail by my property. I rarely put up photos of the outside of my house, and rarely put photos of my vehicles. Look, money, there's nothing wrong with money. Money gives you opportunities. It gives you choices. And I have always believed that if I help other people make a lot of money, I'll do well. And I think that's one of the reasons why I say it was a 20-year overnight success. I kept reinvesting profits from the business into the business for technically it was 19 years before I was able to buy my dream home. So yeah, I mean, it's not all about showing off your wealth and riches.
No, but the thing I notice about you that's so different though is if I do see a picture of your boat, it's like, come on for a boat ride. If I do see a picture of you for your trailer, come on, walk with me. If I do see something of yours that you have, you're always sharing with other people and you're always helping other people be their best. And I just think that's marvelous. That's why I love you so much. I'm just
thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I have a philosophy on this and I touch upon it in a little book I wrote called The Networking Mentor. And it's about how you mentor people, particularly within BNI, because it's a very BNI-centric book. But here's the theme that I think the overriding theme of it is we all have people in our story, people that have changed our life in some way. And we tell stories about those people. Sometimes, most of the time, they're positive stories. Sometimes it's a negative story that changes your life because you go a different direction.
Yeah.
I have both, and I share both. But I don't think that's as important as something else. It's not who's in our story. I think the real measure of a life is whose story are you in? Whose life have you changed? Who have you helped in some way to be more successful, to be the best version of themselves? That's the key to a successful life. It's not who's in your story, but whose story are you in?
When we miss our goals or we don't achieve the level of success we're hoping and dreaming for and all those things, it's a bummer sometimes. We get it, but I call it, we're kind of rerouted. Can you remember a time when you had to persevere through that type of struggle?
Oh yeah, more times than we have time for. I almost filed bankruptcy twice. So, people look at me and whatever success they see, and they don't know about, almost filing bankruptcy. They don't know that I promised my late wife that I'd get a new home because we were living in my ex-wife's in my house for quite some time, and that it took twice as long as I said. I mean, they don't know those failures where you don't achieve the things you may commit to someone or you commit to yourself. So there's two things. One, I always said, especially as I was running the business, 3 levels of goals. The highest level, and this is a great way for you to really achieve your goals more effectively. The highest level I call dancing on the roof. Okay, I did it. It's unbelievable. Okay, that's the highest level. The second level is your target. That's a goal you really want to hit. The third level is the floor. If you can't hit the floor, you probably are in the wrong business.
Yeah.
Or you may have something like COVID happen, which changes a lot of dynamics. So, I've had many times, like I said, I almost filed bankruptcy twice. I had unbelievable problems in doing an online platform called BNI Connect. And I tell that entire story in my latest book, The Third Paradigm. So if you want to see a real failure and persistence turning it into success. Pick up a copy of the book, The Third Paradigm.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good book. I like Who's in Your Room.
Yeah.
That's probably, I think that's my favorite book.
Yeah.
That hit me. I'm like, oh, that's my Surround Yourself with Love. It's, do you want to talk about Who's in Your Room?
So imagine you live your entire life in one room, and that one room has only one door, and that one door is an enter-only door, so that when people come into your room or into your life, they're there forever. You can never get them out. Now, people look at it as a metaphor, but I think it's much more than a metaphor. Because if you think, and those of you watching this right now, I want you to think of somebody that you let into your life, and they were difficult, they were caustic, they were toxic, and you got them out of your life. Now I want you to think of something that they did to you that it just makes you so mad to remember. So if they're still in your head, they're still in your room. And they will be for the rest of your life, because that's part of your experiences. Your room starts here and ends here. It's your mind. And so the experiences you have in life is what your room is all about. And so the book is about how do you have a doorkeeper who makes sure that the right people get in. And if sometimes the wrong people get in, or you have family members, which you have no choice over, you need the concierge who knows how to manage those people in the room. And then how do you curate the room of your dreams? That's what the book is about.
Love it. Yeah, it's one of my favorite books. I have that one back on my shelf, and I read that one often, so I love that one. Let's talk about comprehensive success, because I think one of the most elusive parts of success is comprehensive success, where, and you may or may not agree with me, so give us your take, but I think sometimes people pursue success in one area and sometimes let the other areas fall apart. And so I kind of love if possible, like a well-balanced approach to success. So you're aware that success is so multifaceted. What do you think about that? And do you agree?
Well, there's several things in there. One is the people who say you can have it all, I think are mistaken.
Yeah.
I know some of those people who say, yeah, you can have it all. And, and they're talking about relationships, and, they've been divorced, I don't know how many times, where they're talking about making money, and yet they're not doing very well financially. And I think you have to pick and choose. I really don't think you can have it all. What I do believe is that if you live a life, if you are really good with understanding what your values are, what your personal values are. If I ask the average person, I say, tell me your top 6 personal values. It's like deer in the headlights. They almost always say, well, honesty. Great, give me 5 more. They don't know. It's like, okay, well, you got to get good with your values. And then once you get good with your values, then you know what to hold on to, and you know what to let go of. Yeah. And we talk about this in Who's in Your Room. And you got to let go of stuff. And one of the sections, as a matter of fact, the most popular section in terms of interviews was how to say no without sounding like a jerk or worse.
It's one of my favorites.
People love that section.
I needed that, actually. I'm like, oh man, I need to say no, and I'm gonna, girls are people pleasers.
Yeah, and we give techniques, specific techniques on how to say no without sounding like a jerk. But you mentioned the word balance, and so I have a philosophy on balance.
Cool.
And I think the secret to balance is forget about balance. You'll never have it. It's not possible. We look at balance like scales, and our business life has to be in balance with our personal life, which has to be in balance with our health and our spirituality. And the truth is, life is not a balancing act, especially for a lot of the people watching this, because they're in business, and so they're trying to run a business, have a family, and have all these other things. And life is more of a juggling act than a balancing act.
Yeah.
And so, while I don't think you can have a life of balance, I do think you can have a life of harmony. Harmony. And this is more than semantics. Even the graphic for harmony, the yin and the yang, are out of balance if you separate them. I lived a life that was crazy out of balance. I have 2.5 million miles, air miles, on one airline. I traveled most of my career all the time. But I learned techniques that I talk about in Who's in Your Room about how to create a life of harmony versus balance. And one of them, I'll give you, there's like there's a bunch, but I'll give you one. Be here now. Wherever you are, be there. Don't be at home thinking about the project that's got to be done at work. Don't be at work thinking about the fact that you didn't spend enough time with the family last night. And then I got a whole bunch of others. But I'll tell you one quick story about harmony. My son's now 30. When he was 17, we were sitting in front of the big screen TV and we're playing a game of Halo, and he's kicking my butt in Halo, right? And we were leveling up
down there.
Yeah. He was wiping me out, you know. Yeah. So we were leveling up to the next level. And I said to him, hey, buddy, was I around enough for you as you were growing up? Because my dad was always around, right? And I traveled. Every other week I was traveling. And he looked at me like I was crazy. And he said, you're around all the time. I said, well, I don't know if you noticed, but I'm actually gone every other week for at least 3 days, sometimes longer. And, you know, so was I here enough for you? And he's like, yeah, I don't know. It's like, when you're here, you're totally here. Can we get back to the game now? And I'm like, yes, we can. We can get back to the game now. And that really reinforced the idea that you may not have a life of balance, but you can have a life of harmony. And that's a powerful concept.
Yeah, I saw that in motion. You said this, I've talked to you about this before. And so I was kind of looking around for examples of that in my own life. And I would see it repeatedly on the baseball field with, no offense to men or anything like that, but they were coaching their kids in baseball, and they'd be one of them would stand on second base on his phone the whole time.
Yeah.
And then this is in the change guidebook, but completely missed his kid hitting a home run. He turned his back to take the call, went over that way and totally missed it. I mean, all the way, the kid ran all the way past him, didn't high five him, didn't do anything, all the way home. So he got off his phone. He's like, what just happened? And it's like, oh man, that is such a bit. So that is such a lesson. Like,
it is. And you know what? We've all been there. I've done stupid things like that, but it's consistency. Yeah. You know, the thing to learn from that is don't ever do that again.
Yeah. Well, right? I tried not to judge him too. I'm like, what if he's a doctor and he's on the phone saving somebody's life and things like that? So I got a little judgy on him, but you know, you have no idea what he was doing exactly. And I didn't know the guy that well, but he totally missed it.
But you're right. You're absolutely right. That's a good example.
Yeah. All right. One more, because I know you got to go.
No, I'm
there
you
go.
I got
some time.
I got 10 minutes before my next interview.
Oh, 10 minutes. Okay, cool. We talked about I love authenticity and integrity, and how they factor into success and maintaining it. So do you want to talk about authenticity and integrity, character, those types of things?
Yeah, you know, I think authenticity shows up over time. Someone can act authentic for a while, but eventually their true nature kind of shows up. And so it's one of the reasons why you want to be cautious in allowing people into your room or into your life, because you want to see how they show up over time in different situations. And there's so many people. I mean, I know life coaches where they might as well be saying to people, here, take my advice. I'm not using it. And, you know, they don't use their own advice. Yeah. And so, but you don't, sometimes you see it immediately, but rarely. And so you want to, you know, have some experiences with somebody over a period of time to see if they show up in an authentic way. Yeah. And true integrity is what shows up when no one's looking.
No one's paying
attention. What's that?
That's a big one.
Yeah, it really is. How do you behave when no one's looking? And so I think, you know, sometimes people will ask me, do you have any regrets for mistakes that you've made during your career? And my answer to that is I really have no regrets. I've made a lot of mistakes. You know, don't equate regrets with mistakes, because mistakes, a lot. Regrets, very, very few.
Yeah.
And the reason I think mistakes are your tuition for success is you say, okay, I'm not going to do that again. What would I do differently? And you learn from it. Regrets come, I believe, when someone doesn't live up to their values.
Ooh.
When no one's looking and they act differently. And the result of that leads to something that they later regret. So I think if you have a good set of values and you live those set of values, you will rarely, if ever, have any true regrets.
Yeah. Well, okay. What are a couple of your values?
Well, listen, my number one value, without a doubt, shows up in BNI, our principal core value of giver's gain. And to me, giver's gain is more than a phrase. It's a way of living one's life. It's a perspective to view and interact with the world. It's an attitude, not an expectation from someone else. When it's applied properly, it'll change your life. And when it changes enough lives, it will absolutely change the world. It's my number one value is you give, you help people, you pour into people, and it'll come back to you. Some of the others are lifelong learning, recognition, accountability. That's the tough one. Everybody thinks that someone else should be accountable, but when it comes to themselves, sometimes they're not willing to be so accountable. And relationships, building relationships. I run a network, so relationships are a critical element. Those are some of my values. I'll give you one other value that my late wife and I just got remarried, and she, yes, Jody.
Hello, Jody.
Wonderful woman.
Yeah.
And I think she and I will have the same couples value. And that is, we will only spend time with other couples who love and respect each other. Love and respect each other. Now, look, I'm not always the most loving person. I may screw up here and there. And my late wife and Jody might not always be respectful, but I'm talking about consistent pattern. You can see that over time. And so that's a value that we both have. We want to be with other couples who love and respect each other. And then we feel like we can really spend quality time with those people.
Yeah, no, that's great.
One of those couples, by the way, helped me write Who's in Your Room, or I helped him write Who's in Your Room, Stuart Emery and his wife, Joni.
Nice. I loved it. Okay, I have a question for you. One more. Back to the giving part.
Yeah.
What I see this repeatedly with people feeling like they're giving and giving and giving and giving and still struggling.
Yep.
Can you help us with that a little bit? Is there a point at which you need to say no and take care of yourself? Do you give until you just can't give anymore?
So there's a couple of things. I wrote a book called Infinite Giving. And it addresses that. And there's two things that it says. One is you should give freely. And infinite giving does not mean you're an infinite victim. So you have to have discernment. And at some point, if you're being taken advantage of, you have to step up and have a conversation with that person about that very issue. And I think one way to look at it, we quote Lisa Nichols, who's a good friend of mine and motivational speaker. Give from your saucer, not your cup. That as your cup fills and overflows, give freely from that saucer. And as you become more and more successful, the cup gets bigger, the saucer gets bigger. You're able to give more and more. I give more to charity now than I thought I would ever make when I was in my 20s.
I love it.
And so as your cup gets bigger, your saucer, it's overflowing. And so you give from that saucer. Don't give too much from the cup. Otherwise, you're going to feel taken advantage of. But give freely from that saucer. Does that make sense? There's a couple of metaphors there that,
no.
It's all in the way it's applied. But if you apply it,
perfect.
Well-meaning, it's good.
All right. Anything else before we go? I'm so grateful for you and so grateful for all of your information and wisdom and friendship and smile.
Thank you. Thank you. And you've given me much more credit than I deserve. You have done. I have contributed to your material, to your site, but
so long. I'm so grateful for you. I mean, when I opened Best Ever You, I somehow met you. And you've been with me since I opened it, and I'm so grateful. You write for us all the time, and it's always so helpful, and everybody's always so proud of you. So
you're going to see a few more books coming out real soon that have some great content in it. One last thought is in terms of networking. I think people need to remember that networking is more about farming than it is about hunting. It is really about cultivating relationships with people. There's no big secret to it. There are techniques, but all the techniques are around relationship building, not about transactions, but about relationships. And when you get that, then you're just going to be a whole lot more successful in building your business.
That's so helpful, because often you feel like you're desperate and hunting when you're starting out, and you have to take a step back and remember this is long term, the long game.
Well, listen, again, thanks for having me in your book. And I know a printed version is coming out soon, yeah?
Soon, yeah. The printed version is a little bit delayed. It'll come out in late May. But
yeah, well, I will put it all over my social media platforms when that version comes out.
Same for you. I got all your books too. So, all right, lots of love. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for listening and watching.